Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode with the American Acupuncture Council. I'm Sam Collins, the coding and billing expert for acupuncture, the American Acupuncture Council, as well as the profession in general. This episode is going to deal with a very common question that I get whenever I'm teaching a seminar or doing our network services. People always ask, "Hey, Sam, I got a payment. Now the insurance company is asking for money back. What can I do? Is there anything I can do to fight this back? What if they recoup the money?" Well, there are many things you can do, and there's laws and statutes that are on your side. Never assume what they tell you is correct. Let's face it, you do an insurance verification, you bill the insurance, they pay it. And then they come back later and say, "Hey, we paid you money 6 months ago. Turns out we shouldn't have." So let's take a scenario like that. The insurance company pays you. Then they come back and say, "Oops, we shouldn't have paid because there were visits that were applied towards the whole overall benefit. Maybe it's combined with chiropractic, maybe with physical therapy, and now they want it back." What are our rights? What do we do? So let's go to the slides. Let's talk about what laws and things protect you and understanding how we have to deal with this. This is not uncommon. Now, I don't want this to scare you off. This doesn't happen a lot, but it happens enough. You have to know what your rights are. What are my rights when someone says we shouldn't have paid you and we want this back? So here's a letter, and please note, everyone, this is a letter from Federal Blue Cross Blue Shield, and notice what it's saying. "Dear Billing Department," they're talking to us directly. "In regards to the request for repayment for claim, the request made to you was a voluntary overpayment request. Because you are in-network provider, you do not have to pay back any overpayment if the overpayment was discovered 365 days or more after the claim was finalized." So I want to take a look at this letter and notice what they're stating here. They're stating that they can request an overpayment if you are in-network, but not if it's over 365 days. So notice that's why the letter says a voluntary overpayment. Realize most often when an insurance company is requesting a repayment, they're doing so just to see if you're willing to pay it. So by example, let's say a policy, as I mentioned, has 20 visits per year. You verify it and they pay it. And then later they come back 6 months later, a year later, and say, "Oops, it turns out the patient already had visits with some other provider, therefore we shouldn't have paid you." Well, frankly, whose fault is that? You did the proper verification, you billed it, they paid it. Now they're saying, "Oops, we made a mistake. We want you to pay it back." So notice that's why this says voluntary. So even though this provider is in network, they're saying, "Well, please pay us back." My issue is going to be, no thanks. Why should I pay you back if it's your mistake? In essence, what they're saying is, we made a mistake and the patient's benefits weren't there. Therefore, we want you to pay back our mistake. My rule would be, no, you go to your insured. That's who you made the mistake with, because essentially what they're trying to push you to do is you pay them back and now go after the patient. Well, why would we have to go after the patient if that's your insured? Well, that's where you'll notice the difference here. Notice it says here, the request made to you was voluntary. And because you are in network and it's over 365 days. So notice now the difference. If they had done this within 365 days, because you're in network, they can take it back. This is one of the downsides of belonging to an insurance. You give them the right to recoup, even when the error wasn't yours. It was their own mistake. So it's one of the downsides of being in network. Now, if you were out of network, could you just completely refuse this and say no? Actually, you could. In the absence of fraud, where something you billed wrong, or maybe they paid you twice, you are under no obligation to refund this. I'm going to point you to, this is a letter that we use for those in our network or those that come to a seminar that deals with an insurance company that has paid you and then subsequently wants it back. So notice at the top it says, "We received your letter where your company is requesting we refund the payment." And you've reviewed the benefits and nothing here shows otherwise. So let's move down here. It says, "I feel that you do not have the right to place this burden upon my office by asking us to correct your error." And this is backed up by case law. Notice it says, "I would like to bring your attention to cases involving the Federated Mutual Insurance Company." And essentially it says the insurance company is in the best position to know the policy limits and must bear the responsibility of their own mistake. So again, if you're out of network and the insurance is asking for this back, understand if they made the mistake and paid more than they should have, maybe there was a deductible they didn't apply, or they just applied more visits than the plan allows, they have to bear the responsibility for it. And again, case law noting dating back to 1974. So for many of you may not have even been born yet. The next case goes from here for National Western Life Insurance Company, and it says, "In the absence of fraud, A healthcare provider is not legally obligated to refund payments it receives from an insurer if the insurer subsequently determines they were paid in error. So let's do this example. You call, the plan says they cover acupuncture. Great. You bill it, they pay it. And then 6 months later, they say, oops, it turns out we don't cover acupuncture. Well, whose fault is that? You did everything properly. What they're saying is pay us back and you chase the patient. My rule would be no. You go after your own patient. That's why that one said voluntary. You're under no obligation to pay this. So when you are out of network, you may completely push back on this with citing these two case laws. Because if there's nothing wrong with the claim, you didn't bill anything in error, there wasn't something billed that you didn't provide, or they didn't pay you twice. If someone pays you twice for the same date of service, you do have to refund the overpayment of that. But outside of that, the answer is absolutely no. Again, if you're out of network. Now, why is it different if you're in network? Well, it's different when you're in network because part of the contract we sign when we join these insurances, it literally says in the contract, should we make an overpayment, even if the error was on our side, we can recoup the money. And I'm sure many of you are going, well, Sam, that's happened to me before. They just take the money from another patient. Well, they will if you're in network. If you're out of network, they should not be because they have no right to that. In fact, the case law stands up. But let's talk about if you're in network. Notice it said 1 year. Now, that's the federal statute, which is generally equal to what the billing time is. So if the billing time is 1 year, they have 1 year to recoup, again, if you're in network. So if you are in network, they can recoup within the time frame of the statute of limitations. And that's where this is a little bit different from state to state. So I'm going to give you a little breakdown here. This has every state, and you'll notice it can vary from some that's 1 year, 36 months, 5 years, 2 years, all the way down to as little as 30 days for some. And some states don't have any, which to me means it defaults to the federal statute. But always know the statute of limitations, just like in insurance. You know how some insurances are. You have 30 days to bill, 60, 90, or 1 year. The same thing applies here for a recoupment. The state law will break it down. So is it 1 year or otherwise? So know your state and whether or not you can push back. My rule would be always send a letter like this in a response when you're out of network. Even in network, I would use the same protocols, but then follow up with the statute of limitations. Do not be afraid to push back. The assumption is often you don't know better and are just going to pay because we're kind of afraid of the insurance. Like, well, we're going to get in trouble. If they could recoup it in network, they probably would have. So take a look here. Here's an Aetna claim, and notice what it says. As a result of a routine claims payment, we previously notified you that there were some differences between the amount paid and the amount which you should have been paid. Well, that's their own issue. So notice, and I highlighted it in yellow, it says, our records indicate the overpayment as noted on the enclosed document is not eligible to be offset from future claim payments. In other words, you're out of network, so we can't force you to pay it back, but we're going to please say, therefore, we must request you issue a check or money order payable to us in the amount that's requested. You know what my answer to that is? No, thank you. Why would I voluntarily send it? I mean, when do they ever voluntarily say, hey, you know what? We're not paying you enough. We're just going to go ahead and pay you more. Know your rights. Don't be afraid to push back. When there's a request for overpayment, was it truly overpaid? Did they pay you more than you billed? Well, that you would have to pay back the amount over what you billed, or if they paid you twice. But if you're out of network and they later decide they didn't feel they should have paid it, too bad. That's on them. They should know their own policy. And the statute of limitation applies for those of you who are in network. Just like they put a limit to the time that you can send a claim, they will have limits to when they recoup. This is why a lot of providers think, maybe I don't want to be in network because I give them a little bit of power. That's part of that trade-off. We did this in an earlier talk with you of trading off, is it worth it or not? Now, this doesn't happen enough to where it's going to be a major problem, but it's something to know within your rights, because many times they'll just send you a letter hoping you'll pay. Let's say you send 100 of these letters out. Maybe 50 of the doctors know the rule. They're not going to pay it, but the other 50 don't. That's an easy way for them to recoup money by simply having people not aware of what their rights are. Notice, these plans aren't necessarily there for you. Always be able to push back and know where the laws fit. That's what we're here to do. That's what the American Acupuncture Council is there to do. We always want to enhance your practice, as I do. For those of you who would want to have help, just like what we're doing now, where we can deal with this one-on-one via phone or Zoom or otherwise, You may want to join our network. Take a look at our site. You can do the QR code or go directly to our site. Remember, it's aacinfonetwork.com. We're always here to help. The American Acupuncture is always going to be your resource, your place for help. And remember, first of the year is coming. What's going to be changing? Lots of things, codes, fees, and otherwise. Probably time to get to a continuing education seminar with the American Acupuncture Council Network. I hope to see you all at a future date. Until then, best wishes, everyone.